Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, and this is it, this is the big one. This is the prize draw for the 7 life purpose questions tag, which I've been running over the last few weeks. I'm very excited about this. I did say that there was prizes available, and the prizes were to be, or the prize was to be, a signed copy of my first book, How to Find Your Vital Vocation, a practical guide to discovering your career purpose and getting a job you love. And I explained that as well as being about career purpose, really the book is about life purpose in the way that I conceive of it, and I'm going to talk to you a bit about that in a second, because I said what I would do in this video, as well as the prize draw, is talk through the principles behind the questions I asked and why I asked those particular questions, and even more importantly, what you can do with the answers that you developed in contemplating the questions that I posed. So hopefully you'll find this useful, and I'll come on to that in a second. But in terms of the prize, I did say there were going to be 3 copies of this book available, and I would sign the copies to all the winners, and there would be 3 winners. However, when it came to ordering copies of the book in order to give them away as prizes, because I don't have a big stock of them here, I do need to order them in. I don't know if you know, by the way, that I self-published this book through Amazon Create Space and Kindle Direct Publishing and so on. And nowadays, I don't know how much you know about self-publishing, but nowadays it's not like the old days where when you self-publish a book you end up with boxes and boxes of it in your garage and have to kind of try and flog it out of the back of your car or something. The way that it works is through print on demand. So basically you upload the files onto Amazon or whichever sales platform you're using, and when it comes time for somebody to purchase the book, what they do is they simply order the book online, and through ordering the book online, Amazon prints a copy. So literally they print it copy by copy as people order it, which means there's no great outlay. You don't end up with lots and lots of boxes cluttering up the place. But it does mean that if you want a copy for yourself, you've either got to order a bunch of them and have them in, and I've given all mine away or sold the ones that I had here, or you order it as and when you need it. So I came to the point of thinking, all right, I'm going to need 3 copies of this so I can give it away, and I ordered them online, except I didn't order 3 copies. For some reason my brain had a bit of a brain freeze, and instead of ordering 3 copies I ordered 5 copies. Now what I could do is I could give away the 3 copies, and I could keep a couple of copies here, and I'll use them in the future when I'm coaching or when I'm speaking about the book, or whenever. It's good to have copies here. And then I just thought, actually, why bother with all that hassle? I think the fact that I have ordered 5 books is telling me that really 5 books want to be given away. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give away 5 copies of How to Find Your Vital Vocation via this prize draw. So not 3, 5. And I'm very pleased to say we've had lots of entries, about 25 in total I think, which is really great. And some of them were, a couple of you did more than one video, all of you gave really thoughtful, interesting answers. Some of you went really, really deep with your answers, and I know that for some of you it was quite an intense process, and some of you have confided to me that you, well, and you've said in your videos that you found it at times quite challenging. It pushed some buttons for people, and this kind of stuff does, when you confront issues of what is my purpose in life. These are big, meaty, sometimes quite scary issues. So I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who took the time to respond, and I know that some of you watching this will have looked at the questions and will have contemplated the questions and haven't necessarily done a video response, but a number of people have contacted me and said that they found the questions useful just to sit and contemplate, or to use journaling prompts and so on. So I'm really pleased that you found this useful, and whether you've done a video or haven't done a video, I hope that what I'm about to speak about will be helpful to you. However, before we go on to that, we've got to do the prize draw. So what I'm going to do, well, not what I think, I am going to pick 5 people from the magic cereal bowl of magicness, and those people I will contact, and I will ask you, when I send you the book, you have a variety of choices. Either I can just send you the book without any writing on it, because I know that some people like to read books and move them on or sell them on eBay or Amazon and so on, and I'm fine with that. I won't be offended if you want to do that with this. If you want to read it and move it on and you don't want my scribbles all over it, that's absolutely fine. So don't at all feel you have to have me write on it. So if you just want the book, you can just have the book. If you want me to just sign the book, I can do that. If you want me to sign it to you, then I can do that. If you want me to sign it to somebody else because you want to give your copy of the book to them, then that's fine too. So when I contact you, I will obviously need somewhere to send the book, and I will also need your instructions about what I'm writing in it. Okay, so let's get to it. So there's not really any other way of doing this than just by dipping in. So as I say, we have got 5 prizes. So I'm just going to get straight in, and we are going to. I'm not looking. I can't look. Okay. Is it so exciting? I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? It's Sacred Space Japan. So I will need from you details of where to send your copy of How to Find Your Vital Vocation. So that's 1 down, 5 to go. No, 4 to go. Willowwind, the Thrifty Witch. So now yours was one of the double videos, which were absolutely fantastic. So I'm very pleased that you have won. So on to the next one. Nobody Here, Annika. Prize for you. So that's 3. So if I were just stopping now and just sticking with my original plan, those would be the 3 winners. So I want you to know that you 3, well, who knows what would have happened if it had only been, if I'd said it was only 3, maybe different names would have come out. Who knows? But certainly you 3 were the first 3 out. So that's great. But we've still got a few more to do. Can I do this without looking? I can't do it without looking. Tattooed Spirit! Jeff Burr, who christened me BCC, and it's a name that stuck. So I'm absolutely thrilled, Jeff, that you are a winner. So that means we've got 1 more to get. Let's see. Crystal E. Rama. Andrea, you are my 5th and final winner. So those are the 5. Crystal E. Rama, Tattooed Spirit, Willowwind, the Thrifty Witch, Nobody Here, and Sacred Space Japan. So well done everyone. I'll be in touch with you soon, and we'll get on with getting you a copy of How to Find Your Vital Vocation, signed as you see fit. So what I want to do now is talk to you about why I picked the specific questions I picked for this tag. Because although some of the questions were really quite simple and straightforward, they were all designed with a very specific purpose in mind, very specific reasons in mind. And they're questions that I use quite often with coaching clients at different stages of the coaching process. But they're questions I use particularly when I'm working with people who are either in the position of not knowing what it is they want to do with their life, either from a career point of view or just a general life purpose point of view, and I'll talk a bit about what I mean by life purpose in a second. Or I use them sometimes with people who do know what they want to do, possibly from a career point of view, but they don't know, either they don't know how to get there, they don't know how to get to this thing that they see as being their career purpose or their life purpose, or they know what the steps would be to get there, but they don't believe that they can take them for whatever reason. You know, there may be internal obstacles that are in the way, or external, real life external practical obstacles that are in the way, that are stopping them from moving forward. And these questions are designed to kind of ferret out some of these issues, and then to give us something to work with in a coaching context. And what I hope you'll be able to do from this video is take the answers that you developed from your contemplation of the 7 life purpose questions tag and use the answers to help you move forward from wherever you are now. One of the things I've said in previous videos, and I absolutely stick by it, is that it is my experience that almost universally people are much closer to their life purpose than they believe they are, than they think they are. It's really not as far away as some of us think, and many of us think at different stages in our life. And I'm just going to check that this is, you can hear me properly, because I think, oh, pardon me for knocking the camera. I want to make sure the microphone is not obscured by my stand. It would be terrible if I did a whole video imparting the depth of my experience and wisdom as a coach and it was completely silent because I had the microphone covered up. So hopefully, if you weren't hearing me very well before, you're hearing me better now. So what I'm going to do is, if you'll forgive me and you'll indulge me, I'm actually going to, at various points in this video, read extracts from my book, How to Find Your Vital Vocation. Oh, and by the way, I should say, obviously we've done the draw, and it's great that I'm going to be able to send 5 copies of the book to the worthy winners. There are 2 other things I want to just mention. For those of you who didn't win, or anyone who's watching this video after the prize draw process was over and done with, the book is available in paperback, not terribly expensive, and it's also available as a Kindle edition, very inexpensive. So I hope if you are disappointed you haven't won a copy of it, and you know there are other career books out there, but I would say that I'm proud of this one. You know, I put a lot into this, and I think it covers a lot, because it covers not only the process of how to discover what your purpose or your vital vocation is, as I describe it, but also the practicalities of how you get it. So, you know, hopefully you'd find it useful. So, you know, it's available not very expensively, so I hope that those of you who didn't win, who really want the book, will go ahead and get it. But if you are really struggling financially and you can't, then I'm going to pop a link below to another resource that I've created, which is a shorter ebook only, that's available via my website, and all you have to give me is your email address, and I'm not going to spam you forever. All that will happen is you'll give me your email address, you'll be able to download this resource, which is called the Creative Career Compass. I love my alliteration, can you tell? Vital Vocation, Real Food Revival Plan, Creative Career Compass. Difficult to say, but I love the alliteration. And you'll download a copy of that, and you'll get a sequence of emails from me over, there'll be an email every couple of days to start with, and then every couple of weeks, and then every couple of months, but only about 20 emails in total. And what that email series does is it takes you through some of the hints and tips, my career coaching, life purpose coaching, hints and tips. So you'll get some value from that sequence of emails, and you'll get some value from the Creative Career Compass, which is it's not an extract from How to Find Your Vital Vocation. It's not a shorter version of that, but it covers some of the same principles in a much less detailed, more overview kind of fashion. But people who've downloaded it have said to me they found it useful. So if you want to get a flavour of what my work is about, and you want to test the waters before you take the plunge of buying the book, then you can get that, and it's absolutely free. All you need to do is give me your email address, and that means that you get a sequence of emails which will be useful to you, and also you're on my my mailing list, which but you'll only get an email from me through that mailing list if I've got something to say that's related to my coaching writing. So I won't spam you with all kinds of, you know, stuff like every time I put out a blog post, here's another email. It won't be that, I promise. So so anyway, that's my gift to all of you. So whether you've won on this tag or haven't, then you all can access that if you wish. So where was I? So yeah, so I'm going to read you some bits from Vital Vocation in order to illustrate my points as we go through. And the couple of things I want to mention, I've made some notes so I don't miss anything important. The couple of things I want to say by way of preamble is that, you know, the term life purpose, and I mentioned this in the first video, is such a grand title, isn't it? It makes us just think of really big, important things, and it makes us think life purpose, that must be about becoming famous and rich and important and accomplished and so on and so forth. And you know, it might do that for some people. That is the life that's right for them. And we see many of them in public life, really skilled, wise, important, caring, powerful people who move the world along in a whole number of different ways. And you might say, well, that was their purpose. Their purpose was to make a big difference in this world, and that's great. But for some of us, our life purpose is much simpler than that. It's much more basic, it's much more mundane, but it's no less important. So in my book, you're literally in my book, your vital vocation is about finding, either finding the work or the life that really makes your heart sing, that allows you to make a good living, not necessarily to be a millionaire, unless you want to be, but to make a good living and to have a life you love. And sometimes that making a good living and doing the things you love fits into one single job, and sometimes they're separate things. So sometimes you need to have a good enough job that pays the bills, that you don't hate, that leaves you enough time to get on with other stuff so that you can pursue your passions in your free time, and that's absolutely fine as well. And the other thing to say about life purpose is, well, you know, when you think about what makes up a life, what a life is made up of is a sequence of moments, a never-ending sequence of moments. And to my mind, if you are interested in finding your life purpose, then the first thing to do is find your moment purpose. In other words, what is it that is given to you to do or be or feel or have right here, right now? Not sometime off in the future, but right here, right now. And so the choices that we make in these moments, that's what makes up our life. So if you want your life purpose to come to fruition, pay attention to your moment by moment purpose. So that's the preamble. And going on to the questions, the first question I asked you was, what are your top 5 very favourite things to do in this life? And the reason that I asked this is, well, there's a quote which I'll share with you from one of my favourite career coaching inspirations, if you like, a writer and coach called Barbara Sher, who's written a number of great books. I highly recommend her stuff, so she's well worth checking out. And one of the things that she says, which really stuck with me, is she was talking about people's talents and how to find your talents in this life so you can use them. And a quote from her is, "What you love is what you are gifted at. What you love is what you are gifted at." And that's a really important concept, because we often think that we've got to find some amazing talent, but we don't know how. And maybe we know what our talents are, but sometimes we feel that they might be untapped and undiscovered within us. And what she's pointing out is that there is a connection between what you're talented in, genuinely talented in, and what you find appealing in this life. And you know, a lot of people when they hear this will go, but that I don't understand that, because, for example, well, let me take myself as an example. I love the sound of the human voice singing. Well, the sound of some human voices singing. I can't say that I love the sound of every human voice. But if I'm listening to music, any kind of music, pop music or classical music or folk music or anything that involves singing, the most important component, if I'm going to become a real devotee of a particular band or an artiste or kind of music, the thing that is most important to me is the sound of the voice. It's not the music, it's not the lyrics, it's not the genre of song, it's the sound of the voice. And so all of the people whose music I really, really love are people whose voices I really love. So I've got a real strong attraction to that. Unfortunately, I have got a singing voice like the smell of gas, and I'm completely tone deaf. I'm partially deaf, never mind tone deaf, but I'm definitely tone deaf. And you know, if somebody were to say to me, well, you know, you love singing, that means you must want to be a singer, or you must need to be a singer, you know, I would laugh in their face, because that clearly isn't it for me. That's not to say that if I wanted to go and learn how to sing that I maybe couldn't do it. I mean, I'm willing to be open to that. But so what is it then? What does that tell me? Does it mean in order to pursue that particular talent I have to go off and become a singer? No, but it means that I have to make time in my life for appreciating the sound of the human voice. And in fact, one of the things that is really important is recognizing that if you love something, you sometimes have to go digging to find out what it is about that thing that you love, because that's the clue to what your purpose is. It's a bit like the things we love are, you know, well, we don't come into this world with an instruction manual, do we? So these things that we love are like signals from, however you want to conceive it, your spirit, the universe, God, your DNA, whatever it is, that makes you you. And if you love something, nobody else will appreciate it in exactly the way that you do. So if you are a fan of a particular music, you might think, well, lots of people are fans of that music. What's so special about me? What's so special about you is that there might be lots of people who are fans of that particular music or any other thing, but nobody sees in it exactly what you see in it. So in my case, if I wanted to pursue my love of voices, it doesn't mean I have to sing. Maybe what I could do is I could write reviews of good vocalists. I could start a blog, or I could write a book on that, or I could just make time in my life to go to concerts and hear people that I really love and make sure that I don't fritter away time not pursuing that. You know, if you're somebody who loves opera, then you know, you don't have to become an opera singer. Maybe you could volunteer at your local opera and be an usher there. Then you get to hear all the great music, and you get to pursue your passion and your interest without locking yourself into a particular way of doing things. And that's not to say, if you love opera, that you shouldn't become an opera singer. Maybe you are somebody who has that love and has the voice to go with it and can pursue it in a very direct way. But if you can't, you've got to go digging to find out what is it about that thing that you love, because you can always have the core of it. You can always have the heart of what you love, even if you can't have it in exactly the form that you initially encounter it. So that was the point of the second question, because the second question was, if you had to identify a connection between your 5 favourite things, what would that connection be? And that was partly about helping you to think about, is there something in all of the things that I love the most in this life that is at the heart of all of them, that weaves through all of them? I call that threads and themes. Are there any threads and themes? And usually there's more than one, because that's what points you to the core of what you love. And just to illustrate that, I want to read you an example from my book. Now, this is actually an example from a coaching client I worked with several years ago, whose name has been changed to protect his privacy, although he's given permission for this. But in the book he's called Sean. That wasn't his real name. So where are we? Yeah, so I'm talking in this part of the book about overcoming obstacles, and you know, one of the obstacles being that something you want might seem unattainable. Something you love might seem unattainable. So maybe you want to train as something and then you discover that you're too old, or you can't afford it, or the training venue is too far away. So you think, that's it, dead end to my dream. Maybe not. Let me give you an example. Let's say you discover that you need to enter training for your new career, and then you learn that no training institution near you has any available places, or worse, that you're too old to be accepted onto the course. Disaster. Or is it? The first course of action would mean finding a place, so this is talking about how you do it without having to do anything complicated. The first course of action would mean finding a place that offered the training, and if necessary, travelling there or obtaining the training by distance learning if that was an option. That might solve the availability of training issue, but it might not solve the issue of age limits, and that's when a different approach is needed. This actually happened to Sean, who realised quite late in life that he wanted to train in medicine. He wished that he had become a doctor, because he realised that his talents lay in the field of caring for people's health, and he had a strong desire to work in a medical and healthcare environment. Now, Sean was somebody who loved everything to do with medicine, hospitals, anatomy, physiology, studying disease, studying wellness and health and so on. He loved all of that, and to his regret, he hadn't pursued that as a career. Where are we? What he lacked were the skills needed to be a doctor, because he had no training, and at 55 years old he realised that the likelihood of him training in medicine and qualifying as a GP, a general practitioner, was virtually non-existent. Far from falling into despondency, he decided to look for ways to express his talent for caring for people's health in other ways, by finding an option that didn't require him to get a medical degree. In the end, he trained as a Tai Chi instructor. He'd found Tai Chi to be very beneficial to his own health. He now has his own thriving practice and has even managed to fulfill the environment aspect of his vital vocation by offering Tai Chi classes to patients at his local doctor's surgery. Now, the environment element is, I talk about in vital vocation, about the different components of a vital vocation, and the 4 components are your talents, so the things that you love and that you are gifted at, your values, the things that are important to you and that you want to see realised in the world, the environment, so the kind of environment you want to work in, whether the physical environment and emotional environment and so on, and your skills. And skills are the things you're good at doing. I actually leave that last. I consider that to be the least important thing of your vital vocation, because too often people say, well, I'm good at this, therefore I'll make a life out of it. But if you don't love the thing you're good at, and I'm not talking here about the things that you're passionate about and have talent in, if you just base your life and your job on the things you're good at, and it doesn't fulfill your passions, then that's a quick route to burnout and a quick route to dissatisfaction. So back to Sean. His solution was based on a really important principle that I teach all my clients. You can always have the core of what you love, even if the form it takes isn't what you first anticipated. I'll say that again. You can always have the core of what you love, even if the form it takes isn't what you first anticipated. What he really wanted was to help people, and by being open-minded enough to realise that there were more ways to do this than he first thought, he opened up a world of opportunities. So that is the reason I asked you to look at your favourite things, and it's why I asked you to look at the threads and themes. And what I would ask you to do now is to go back and look at your answers, and don't look at them from the point of view of, do I have to turn this into a job? Do I have to be the best at this particular thing in the particular way I've described? But ask yourself, what is it at the heart of these things? And it might be more than one thing. What is at the heart, the core of these things that I love so much? And what does that tell me about what I need to be doing with my time and my life in order to be fulfilling my moment-to-moment purpose? Okay, so the third question was, which of your personal qualities do others most often recognise as being of value in their lives? And obviously this is about doing that thing of getting beyond the blind spot. So sometimes we don't see our own strengths. Sometimes we also don't see our own foibles, and boy, are people willing to point those out to us. And that's kind of the point of this. You know, often people will point out your foibles to you, but worse than that, what we'll tend to do, well, if you're anything like me anyway, you'll remember the things that people have said to you about you that are a bit more negative. Those are the things that will stick in your mind. And we tend to dismiss the things that are complimentary. So this question is about getting you to focus back onto what are the positive things that people have said to you about you, because there's important information there. And in fact, if I just talk to you about an exercise in the book which I call crowdsourcing, and this is in the chapter 2, which is all about looking at your talents and looking at your gifts and finding them and understanding that they're not necessarily obvious to you. You have to do some work to find them. And there's various exercises, and this exercise is about going deeper. And in fact, at the beginning of this section, I have a quote from Quentin Crisp, who is or was the subject of the BBC drama The Naked Civil Servant, a very flamboyant gay man who was very out in the 1960s and 70s, and at a time when it wasn't easy to be, and was just a very wise person and very astute. And one of his quotes is, "The search for a lifestyle involves a journey to the interior. This is not altogether a pleasant experience, because you not only have to take stock of what you consider your assets, but also have to take a long look at what your friends call the trouble with you. Nevertheless, the journey is worth making. Indeed, We might say that the whole purpose of existence is to reconcile the glowing opinion we have of ourselves with the terrible things other people say about us. Now, I put that in just as a bit of amusement because obviously I don't want you to just focus on the terrible things other people say about you. But I want you to think about the things you like about yourself and to have a look at the things that you see other people have value in you. And in this exercise called crowdsourcing, this is what I say. And this is what the exercise is. It seems to be a fact of human nature that we often have better ideas about what's best for other people than we do about what's best for ourselves. Perhaps that's because with a bit of distance it's easier to get perspective. Whatever the psychology behind it, we're going to make use of that principle to encourage a few more of your gifts out of the shadows. So step one of the exercise is you think of all the times that you've heard someone comment or compliment you on the things that you've done really, really well and which you enjoyed but which you felt fairly effortless to you. Family, friends, co-workers, acquaintances, strangers, anyone. Again, don't focus on your skills. We're not interested in the things you've done competently but don't love. They have their place, but it's not in this exercise. Think specifically about the times that someone has pointed out to you that you're really good at something, particularly those occasions when they noticed something that you didn't, because to you it was a perfectly natural thing for you to be doing. Take your time and make a list. Get as much information as you can from your memories. Don't worry if you don't feel that it's very much, because the next stage is to actually ask others directly. So this might be challenging for some of you, but it's worth doing. So my list might look like this. You're a very good listener, you're very patient when you're explaining something to someone, you've got a way with words. Step 2. For this part of the exercise, you need to find at least one person that you trust to give you an honest and kind opinion. In choosing someone, and you can choose more than one person, think carefully. No Pollyanna-ish, one of the things I'm not very good at is speaking. No Pollyanna-ish, ultra-positive folks who will just say what they think you want to hear, and no hypercritical people who take pleasure in putting you down. That's important because you're going to ask them to give you their opinion of what you're good at. Not what you should be good at based on your skills or the job market or their opinion of what your parents or neighbours will say, but rather what they think you're actually good at based on their observations of your talents and passions. And once you've got that from them, make sure you note it down. If you're asking more than one person, note their answers too, and then add them to the list that you created in step 1. My additions to the list might look like you're very easy to talk to, you're very diplomatic even when things get heated. And these are things that people said to me when I did this exercise. You're able to inject humour into otherwise boring situations. Step 3. By now you know the drill. Take a good look at your list and extract the threads and themes that you see. You should have a growing list of threads and themes, or it may be quite a short list which is being reconfirmed by each new exercise. Either way is fine. And that's kind of the way that each of the exercises goes. So that's about uncovering some of our talents that we might not see based on what other people ask us. Okay. Where do you think the world needs more support, and what activities and tools and perspectives might help provide that support? So the reason that I asked this question, and some of you took the world to mean literally the planet, the physical planet. Some of you took it to mean society and people. Some of you took it to mean your general environment. All of that is absolutely fine. The reason I ask it, and I'm going to share with you this rather nifty diagram. I hope you can see that okay. I'll point out the different sections to you if you can. Incidentally, when I was Googling to find this diagram, because I knew I'd seen something like this and I wanted to share it, I found an absolutely hysterical website that looks at all the different types of Venn diagrams, funny Venn diagrams, and I'm going to share that with you below. And the sun is now coming down behind my window frame, so if there's shadows across my face, that's why, but I'm not going to fiddle with it because there's little enough light as it is. So anyway, this diagram looks at what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs. And that was the question I asked you. What do you perceive as the world needing? Because it's in the intersection of those things, according to this diagram. I would maybe dispute some of this, but it's generally in line with what I would say. There's your purpose. Ideally, if you can have a purpose that's a combination of what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs, then bingo. If you can do what you love and what you're good at, that's where passion comes in. You might not be very well paid for it. It might not be something that seems particularly important to the rest of the world, but you'll be passionate about it. If you can do what you love and what the world needs, then you've got a mission. And, you know, again, you know, you might find that you don't get paid very well for it. Hopefully you're good at it as well, but it might not be something that you'll automatically have skills in. You might need to learn the skills. You might need to pick them up. They might not be intrinsic. There's your mission. If you have what you're good at and what pays you well, then that's your profession. But you might not particularly like it, and many people don't. And then if you have what the world needs and what you can be paid for, they're calling this vocation. That's not what I talk about vocation being in my book, but that's fine. Generally, this is fine. Your life purpose, part of what's important in it is contributing something that you think is important to the world. It's important that it's about what you think is important to the world. And that's why I asked that question, so you could consider what is it you think that the world needs that only you can provide in the specific way that you provide it. That's the key. That's the key. There might be lots of things that other people can do that are similar to what you can do, but there's only one person who can do it in exactly the way that you do it, and that's why it's important for you to discover that. Okay, so number 5 was, where is your happiest place and what kind of beings live there? And the reason I asked that, as I say, part of your vital vocation process is about finding what environment suits you in terms of either your working life or your general life. And I asked this because I wanted you to really consider what is it that's important to you in terms of your environment. And I'll just read you a quote here from a chap called W. Clement Stone, and this quote I think sums up why understanding which environment is right for you, and there are exercises in the book that will help you look at, you know, what kind of people environment you need, what kind of physical place environment you need, what kind of workplace type you might need, what kind of lifestyle remuneration environment you might need. But the reason it's important, according to this quote, is be careful the environment you choose, for it will shape you. Be careful the friends you choose, for you will become like them. So the reason I include that is I want you to think carefully about where you are, what you're doing, who you're doing it with, etc., etc., because all of that is it has an influence, and apart from anything else, it will have an influence on your happiness or otherwise. So, number 6. If every single experience in your life, the good and the bad, had been carefully planned to train you for a specific destiny, what would that destiny be? And I'm going to get a bit metaphysical with you here, because the reason I asked that question is because I understand, that the truth is, every single experience in your life, the good and the bad, has trained you for where you are now, because where you are now is the sum total of everything that your life has been about. So you know, and by the way, the reason I touched the screen was because I got a battery at low notification. In fact, I'm probably going to put the light up a bit. I hope we don't get cut off. If we do, I'll keep going. I'll recharge and keep going. So the reason I asked that question is because, you know, you are where you are, and where you are is, it's a result of everything that's gone before. So, and for some of us, that's been a great past experience, and for some of us it hasn't. But the truth is, it is what it is. And I think if you want to come from a place of power in this, understanding that where you are now, you are on the leading edge of everything that's gone before. And all of the stuff that's gone before is there to be learned from. And, you know, the future is created not from the past, unless we project the past as a future. It's created from the present. And I just want you to really appreciate that and really get that where you are now is where you need it to be in order to move forward, even if it's difficult. Because you can, and the only reason I say that is not some kind of judgment about where you are now particularly. It's just that there is nothing else. There is only now. You know, you are where you are, and there's nothing you can do about that in this moment. Doesn't mean it's not going to change. So if we want to come from an empowered place, we accept that, we embrace it, we recognise that where we are now is the point of power in terms of moving forward. And if we can look at it as part of an ongoing journey, then that, I think, puts us in a really strong position. So I ask my clients when I'm working with them, even if they've had really difficult previous experiences and disappointing experiences, to really deeply contemplate what is it that they can take from those experiences that will help them move forward. And what are the, not necessarily the positives of those experiences, because some experiences have been so crappy, it's hard to say that they're positive. But what positive results can there be in you as a result of those experiences? And that's going to help you to have the drive and the commitment and the understanding to move forward. So that's why I asked that question. And then finally, if time, money, ability, confidence, prior commitments and your own personal beliefs were no obstacle to you doing whatever you wanted to do, what would you start doing today? And the reason I ask this is because I am going to suggest to you that you take the thing that the answer you gave to this, and you study that thing that you came up with, whether it was an ambition or an idea or just a practice that you like doing, whether it seemed possible or really impossible, and to go back to that principle of what's at the core of it, what's at the heart of it, and what can you do to move towards that core thing right here, right now, today. So if you have plans to, I don't know, do like Dolly Parton did and open an amusement park that bears your name, you might think, there's no way I can do that today. So what's at the heart of it? What is it about that amusement park idea that makes your heart sing? Is it that you want to help people have fun? Is it that you want something with your name on it? Is it that you are passionate about carnivals and amusement parks and you love the history of them and the smell of them and the sound of them, the sight of them? So what's at the heart of that desire, and what can you do today? So it might be things like, well, if I love helping people have fun, without setting up an amusement park in this moment, what can you do now or tomorrow or this week that will help people, maybe a group of people, have fun? What specific thing could you do? If you love the history of amusement parks, go and buy a book. Hang the expense, get yourself a book on the history of amusement parks and study. Start studying, start learning, start teaching about it. If you just love the atmosphere of amusement parks, go to an amusement park. Plan today a date when you will go to an amusement park and immerse yourself in that experience, because who knows where that might lead. And it might not lead anywhere, it might just be that you have a good time and that's enough. But who knows where it might lead. There's all kinds of opportunities that can open up when we allow ourselves to not get blocked by obstacles. And I just want to illustrate something for you. So, here's us trying to move forward towards a dream. And I hope you can see that. And here is a list of all the obstacles that are stopping us achieving this dream. Now, what we tend to think, what tends to happen in our minds, most of us, again, if you're anything like me, this is certainly what happens. We're here and we think we can't get there because of all this. We think those are the things that are stopping us achieving our dream, our purpose, our goal, whatever it is. But here's something I've noticed. I can have a list of reasons not to achieve my dream, and that list of reasons can change. So maybe I'll knock one of them off, and then another one, a different one, comes on at the end, and maybe I knock that one off and then another one appears, and then I get some of them off but then another one appears. What seems to happen is there's always a list of reasons to not do the thing that you want to do. especially if it's a really big, scary thing. And very often those reasons change. And if you notice that that's what's happening, that should tell you something. That's telling you not that these specific obstacles are stopping you from getting to your dream, but that for some reason you believe on some level that this is not attainable, and so you leave that gap in which obstacles will appear and you don't move to the dream. That's what most of us don't do. We don't move to the dream because we think we've got a list of reasons why not, and we allow ourselves to believe that those reasons are stopping us. And I'm not saying that there aren't legitimate reasons that are obstacles to you moving forward, but I do want to just say something about the process of overcoming obstacles. And this is so important. I have dedicated not one, not two, but 3 chapters in this book to the overcoming of obstacles. So I've got a chapter on overcoming internal obstacles, chapter 8, which is tackling demotivation, procrastination, erroneous assumptions and stress responses. And there's a whole host of techniques in there to help you overcome those. And there's 2 chapters on overcoming external obstacles. And the first one looks at how you get from point A to point B using a block-busting coaching process, which I'm about to tell you about. And then part 2 is how you surround yourself with people who will help you get there and who will help you have the ideas and the energy and the motivation to move forward. And it also has a bit in there about how to deal with people who won't help you get there. So the 2 ways, and I'll just read you another section of dealing with obstacles are so you remember the example I gave of Sean, who wanted to be a doctor but couldn't because he felt he was too old, and then he found another way of using his talents in medicine and wellness and health, and in a way that he found really, really fulfilling. And he did that by finding the threads and themes. And I said, you can always have the core of what you love, even if the form that it takes isn't what you first anticipated. So what I then go on to say is, bear in mind that there are always at least 2 ways of dealing with an obstacle. And I'm talking here about external, real-world obstacles, not the internal ones. There's a different section on that. This is the external, practical reasons not to move forward. So the 2 ways are, if where you are is point A and where you want to get to is point B and your obstacle is X in the middle, say, there are 2 questions that you must ask yourself. Number 1, how can I get from A to B by directly dealing with X? So in the example I gave here, here's your A, here's your B, and here's your list of X's. How do you get from A to B by dealing with those X's and then moving forward? Or how do I get from A to B without having to deal with X, but perhaps by finding another way of getting the kind of fulfillment that I think B would give me? So in other words, you might not need to deal with those, but you get to this through another route. Okay, these are deceptively powerful questions, and they can be applied to any obstacle you face. And as you can see from the example above, it's always worth looking at your prospective goal in the broadest possible terms. This gives you more options. Caring for the health of others makes many more options available to you than becoming a doctor. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a goal of becoming a doctor, but it's just about opening the mind. Don't tie yourself down too soon. Whenever you're faced with an external obstacle, apply the 2 questions above. And then I talk about this block-busting self-coaching process, and I'll just run through this very quickly with you because this is a nice practical thing to finish on. You may find it helpful to work through the following process in order to generate new options for yourself whenever you're faced with an obstacle in your path. You might like to think of this process as self-coaching questions with bells on. So number 1, what is the obstacle? Try to define it as clearly as possible. Be descriptive of its characteristics. Is it big? Is it small? Is it permanent? Is it temporary? Is it a minor inconvenience or a mind-numbingly scary brick wall? Number 2, why is it important? Take time to reflect on exactly why it's an obstacle for you. Is it because it blocks an essential part of your path? Or is it something that you lack but need to have if you're going to move forward? Number 3, What solutions have you already thought of? It's quite possible that you've already had some ideas about how to work through this obstacle. You may be surprised to discover more when you stop to think. Write them down, even if they seem unrealistic at this stage. And then number 4, ask yourself, how can I get from A to B by directly dealing with or removing obstacle X? To generate ideas for this, consider, what have you tried so far? Of what you've tried so far, what parts worked, if any, and what does that tell you about how you can tackle the obstacle? Of what you've tried so far, what parts didn't work so well, if any, and what does that tell you about how to deal with the obstacle? What likely options haven't you tried yet? What unlikely options haven't you tried yet? And be inventive. So this is about thinking of some lateral ideas about how to get past that obstacle, within the bounds of legality, of course. Then think of the most resourceful person you know, and this can be a real person, or it can be a celebrity or a fictional character. In this situation, what would they do? And what does that tell you about what you could do? And if you know somebody who's very resourceful, you could even ask them what they would do after you've done this part of the exercise. Then the next bit, what help can other people give you with this problem? Then, number 5 in the process, ask yourself, how can I get from A to B without having to deal with X? Perhaps by finding another way of getting the kind of fulfillment that I think B, remember B is the goal, would give me. To generate ideas, consider, what is it you love most about the goal you've chosen? Be specific. How will achieving that goal make you feel? How will it make others feel? What difference will it make to you, to your loved ones, to your community, to the world? What other options are available to you in terms of getting the same or a similar sense of fulfillment? So the art of the possible. You think you can't do this, so what can you do? What action can you take towards this revised goal? And what help can other people give you with this problem? So, just to finish by reading, I'm just going to read to the end of this page because I think it's relevant. Sometimes obstacles that we think are insurmountable are actually only temporary setbacks. I have a friend who harboured a keen desire to teach children, but she didn't do anything about it for years because she believed she needed a teaching qualification and had no time to study for one, very similar to Sean, who did medicine. Then she was offered an opportunity to do some part-time voluntary work as a teaching assistant, using skills she had developed in her existing day job. Without any idea of anything further coming from it, she took the opportunity, and that led several months later to an offer of a part-time paid teaching assistant job, which she accepted. By that point, her long-shelved dream of becoming a teacher suddenly seemed attainable again. She used the free time she gained through having a part-time job to study for her teaching qualification. In other words, she started teaching kids and loving it long before she qualified as a teacher. By doing something to fulfill herself, she ultimately landed a job that she had long given up on. And that is at the heart of life purpose for me, and that's the heart of this tag, 7 life purpose questions. You can do what fulfills you now, no matter how unattainable your ultimate dream seems. And it may well be that the fulfillment of those things, or the doing of those things that fulfill you, will lead you to the attainment of the dream, but not in the way that you might suppose. And we sometimes can over-rationalise these things, can't we? Just to finish here, it says, don't be an island. You'll notice that as part of my instructions for part 4 and 5 of the block-busting self-coaching process, I suggest that you ask other people for help and ideas. Seeking help is perhaps the most powerful thing you can do when you get stuck. And in fact, it's so important that I've devoted a whole chapter to it, and that's next. I'm not going to read that chapter for you, but there's lots in there about how you can find help from other people. So, those are my reasons for asking those questions, and I hope that you found that useful. And now I'm just trying to find my notes because I wrote something else down that was really, really important that I wanted to share with you, and I mustn't lose it. Okay, here it is. So, yes, I wanted to finish with a couple of quotes from the end of the book that are not by me. These are actually by Khalil Gibran from a piece of work that he wrote, a poem he wrote called On Work. And this book is about work, vocation, but it's also about purpose. And when he's talking about work, he's not talking necessarily about your job. He's talking about your life's work, life purpose. And for me, these quotes sum up what I've said and why I think it's so important for you to pursue your life purpose and to recognise that you are closer to it than you think. And there are ways to get there. and they might not be the ways that you at first suppose. So what he says is, you work that you may keep pace with the earth and the soul of the earth. For to be idle is to become a stranger unto the seasons, and to step out of life's procession that marches in majesty and proud submission towards the infinite. When you work, you are a flute, through whose heart the whispering of the hours turns to music. Isn't that lovely? And then, from later on in that same work, he says, always you have been told that work is a curse and labour a misfortune. But I say to you that when you work, you fulfil a part of earth's furthest dream, assigned to you when that dream was born. And in keeping yourself with labour, you are in truth loving life. And to love life through labour is to be intimate with life's inmost secret. So, thank you again to all of you who participated in this tag, whether you did it before the draw or you do it after the draw. I hope it's useful to you. I hope this video is useful to you. Congratulations to our 5 winners, and thank you to everyone who participated. I'll be back very soon, and I really appreciate all the time that you've taken to engage with this process. All the best to you, and see you again before too long. Bye.